Today, once again, is William Askew. Welcome back to the show, man.
Hello, and thanks for having me back. It's always a pleasure to see you fellas.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm your host, Kevin,
And I'm Brian.
and you're now tuned in to Coder Conversations. So, yeah, it's been a second since you were on the show, and I know you've been doing a lot of work on your nonprofit. So, yeah, if you could get us caught up on that.
Well, there's been a couple of nonprofits that I've been working with. Most recently, it's been the Alliance for the Arts based out of Fort Myers, Florida, revolving around their education program and teaching in some of the local schools, just the process of art and the direction as far as you know facilitating a new type of art experience, not necessarily predicated by the schools themselves or the limitations or restrictions that come along with being in school. uh, my personal preference is to revolve around history, so that's been the go-to on that one. And then secondly, I've been working with a company called Ephesian Fields, which is run by David Perez, who is based out of New York. And they're doing something really incredible as far as um, developing single family homes for a very low budget price, uh,
Wow.
with an inclusion of solar panels to help with energy efficiency and bill management.
That's a huge need right now. Low income housing. There's so much pristine and luxury, but what about the cheaper stuff for like the common man?
hmm And he's been very, very dedicated to this particular prospect for some odd years. It's a family expedition for him. I just got off the phone. We were talking a bit about the nonprofit and uh, trying to catch up on some of the details that I might not be too privy on in terms of their phasing in their process. So he hired me on with the intentions of creating some uh, of their renders for the house blueprint, uh, and had just procured some contracts as far as the solar panels themselves, as well as some land grabs in order to start developing. And you can find them at ephesianfield.org. And I'll be able to send you guys over a contact to them. Yeah, should be checking out this episode at some point in time. So feel free to reach
Awesome.
out to
So
me.
you mentioned process. What is your process like with that organization?
Well, I think the process that I have is personally, it's always the same, right? You tell me what the need is, and I'll tell you if I could do it, and then I'll lay out a plan of attack in order to get that done. Taking a look
Absolutely.
at every aspect and avenue allows me to really just develop uh, just a procedure so that we're minimal when it comes to talking, for the sake of talking, and it's really just effective as far as execution. Hey, David. So
Awesome,
yeah,
man. Yeah, like
David, if you want to chime in and drop the link to the organization, I'd appreciate it. And they're accepting donations as well as volunteers at the time as they expand out. Um, and I think it's a great timing in terms of this new mayoral electoral uh, campaign that just happened, right? We got Mardani in office, uh, really taking the reins, and I'm really hopeful for a change of pricing in New York as far as real estate goes.
like Brian mentioned, reasonably priced housing is more needed than ever, especially like
Yeah.
after the pandemic, prices doubled. So houses that were like 200K now magically they're 400K, and really everybody's not making six figures. So who can afford even a basic house now?
That 50-year mortgage though,
Yeah,
it's a
Right.
trap, man. It's a
that's
trap. Don't
insane.
do it.
uh,
This is not
no,
legal advice, but don't do it.
no, and I heard about some. I'm not sure what organization it is, but they're 3D printing tiny houses, tiny homes.
Mm,
You hear about that?
yeah, that's
I think there's
they've
a
been ongoing.
Netflix. There might be a next Netflix special on it. I think.
hmm
Yeah, I just wish they would price that affordably. Like I still feel like okay, they have all this technology, they're gonna use it, but they're gonna jack up the price and make crazy profit.
Mm,
Like even
absolutely.
if you think about mobile homes, you can't just have a RV or mobile home. Like you have to park it on somebody's land, and they might charge you like $800 or some a month.
Yeah.
And they're not even really giving you that much of a service. You're just parking your thing there, and maybe you have access to an
Hmm.
outlet. So
You know what the worst part about the whole mobile home towns are is that essentially, they are renting that land, and those land prices do go up every single year. And there is a fee to even get the home removed, regardless if it's bought out completely. And so it's a different type of grift, man. Like talk about a landlord, and that's really the epitome of it. I know that in some places they even do tours as they like try to get more people to buy land and then start these mobile home communities,
Oh wow.
and it's problematic because it's the equivalent of like when they were doing tours through the Bronx in the double decker bus, as if like look at the natives here, and it's very demeaning,
yeah,
Yeah,
like there's no reason for that.
for sure.
yeah. I'm wondering if going forward you're gonna see people pulling their money together, buying land, and maybe putting tiny homes or mobile homes on it just to save money. That's like the new start, quote unquote, starter home.
And there's some
Mm,
really cool, really awesome tiny homes. Like they just make so good use of the space. They'll have like,
hmm.
a bed that like flies down, or a counter that all of a sudden appears, or chairs that all of a sudden appear, stuff like that.
Yeah, David brought up a good
Yeah,
point. 3D printing is not allowed in many locations.
and that totally makes sense. I mean, give or take, the equipment is massive, so there is a logistics issue there. And then on top of which, as far as permitting goes and trying to create a foundation, depending on the location, and even just the sediment in the ground, it makes it very difficult to have longevity with that particular type of construction material. And although it's been around for many years at this point, I'm going to say close to a decade, um, there is very little traction on it because it's so very one-sided to a very specific type of home.
Okay.
And I don't see anything wrong with, I don't know, like 3D printing particular blocks that can be utilized for construction homes. Like I've seen a Lego model concept, right, where people would 3D print these plastic styrofoam blocks. They fill it up with concrete and then be able to use that as a exterior wall for the home.
Oh wow.
And but that's primarily happening out in Europe, right?
Mhm.
And then there are fundamentally different processes in which architectural habits have kind of taken form and have been utilized culturally across the board, whether it's in Japan, where, essentially they have a completely different technique for woodworking that doesn't
Right.
necessarily involve a whole bunch of like steel rods and like right, it's just like, hey, we got some carpenters and we got some fitted locks, let's put it together.
Most definitely.
Mm,
I think with the Lego model that could be very cost efficient. My only concern with is like with plastics, especially in high heat environments, it starts melting, starts breaking down, and
hmm.
possible health risks there. But from a conceptual point of view, I mean I think that should be the way forward is like creating these like blocks that you can attach to each other. Like you could even create something where you don't like how this part of your home looks, so you just pick up the blocks and reconfigure it, or you just add on to it.
Hmm.
You might,
um I do have a bit of a fear though, right? Most recently there was that issue with the FDA removing its hey Rambo, um the FDA removing its restrictions on using asbestos in makeup, right? But most importantly, it's specifically in talc powder, but specifically, right, it's been primarily found that these type of mineral chains have been found in building materials, especially throughout the last century. And then we had a whole reformation to kind of rid ourselves of that, mainly because asbestos doesn't just cause cancer, right? It causes holes in your lungs. It is
Great.
it it's splintered rocks that just penetrate, um, almost like fiberglass, and it's it's wildly concerning because it's a pricing issue because it does cost a lot to remove asbestos from talc,
Right.
and that type of material is used in a whole assortment of things. And being that we have the particular administration in house that we do with a focus on real estate, this becomes wildly concerning with the idea of cutting corners for the future. Specifically, when it comes to building in places that we wouldn't normally be building because it would be taboo. uh, love the support.
So,
But nonetheless, I think as far as building small home communities goes, uh, avoiding this idea of mobile home communities and anything that would be considering entrapping to the consumer and just everyday purchaser, uh, which is essentially, everyone's the demographic at some point for this. Uh, I think nonprofits and small corporations might be the key to victory as things become too bloated, where we do have communities of people. Hello. We do have communities of people that come together in order to facilitate, uh, a whole community and
Right.
resources that can pull together, especially within this legislative shitstorm that we're going through.
yeah, I think in this like economic and political climate, people will have to get creative. Like I just seen on YouTube today, a lot of people that's living in RVs now. They're older people because
Yeah.
their income stays fixed, but if the price of everything is doubling now, all of a sudden they don't have enough money to stay in their house. Like property taxes jump up, so
Hmm.
it's like
And it's
It's a bad
a damn shame,
situation.
man.
Bad situation right now.
Hmm. Absolutely. But nonetheless, with that being said, I would encourage everyone to check out InferianFields.org to support this nonprofit and help us get things off the ground and potentially, revolutionize at least a few local areas to start off with.
And how do you spell that? Just for the listeners.
For the listeners, give me 1 second. I'm just gonna pull up the website. Make sure I'm spelling it right. EMPYREANFIELDS.org.
Cool.
awesome. So what is the primary means of support? Is it like money or is it time or what are y'all looking for exactly from?
I think at this point there is a goal list that is featured on the website as far as monetary support goes. They are looking to reach a $50,000 budget. From what I saw last, they're roughly around 11. Their donation list is at roughly around 11 to 1500. Um, and so there's a lot of opportunities for sponsorship and support uh, just in that direction. They are also looking for advocates who can promote on social medias as well as um, on other social sites, other websites through means like podcasts and video casts and so forth. Really just getting awareness out there. And this is one of those things that is near and dear to my heart, just based off of a project that I did many years ago revolving around homelessness, the cardboard auctions, which was a project that took place from 2014 to 2016. And, I think most importantly, beyond everything else, we recognize that uh, homelessness is one of those social issues. It's a community issue
Yeah.
that turns into so much more, right? And it becomes discrimination. It
It becomes
transitions
political.
place.
They make it political.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every
Hmm.
time.
And I don't know if that's just a way to avoid the shame and guilt of it all, as far as allowing things to transpire in front of us. I personally have this particular mindset that if there is a fire at the front door, you take care of that fire. And this is one of those things. Uh, Housing has always been an issue here, and it seems to only be getting worse as time goes on. I know at some point it'll seem like things will plateau and levy out, and everything will be good again. But at the same time, uh, there will always be an underlying issue underneath the rug.
You know, it's a shame how people treat the homeless at times. Like I even see, like say for example, a convenience store, they'll blare music really loud 24 hours a day to kind of keep the homeless from like congregating in front of their stores. It's like now it's almost like a crime to be homeless. I believe something was passed to where,
Oh yeah,
you know,
Yeah.
so it's like, where do you go? Like
and
you can't get in the house and it's a crime for you to be homeless. So
Well,
like,
I
what do you do
know
in a few
yeah,
seconds?
in LA, there's a lot of protection for the homeless, like Venice Beach, which is part of LA, right on the water. There'll be these like $5,000, $10,000 condos, and you walk outside in the morning and there's a homeless person sleeping, on the sidewalk right there, or they have tent after tent after tent set up, and I guess they're protected, but it makes the surroundings look kind of sketchy, especially
mhm,
at night. But the thing is, where do these people go? We're not building homes for them. I saw this one documentary on Netflix. This guy, he was a military guy, and he got discharged early due to like a disability, stuff that happened to him, some type of injury. So once he got back home, he said, "You know what? I'm gonna build tiny homes for veterans for free." So
mhm.
I don't know if he started an organization. I'm not sure what it's called, but just the fact that that kind of work is being done out there, is pretty awesome, I think.
Yeah, like David mentioned, the housing is necessary. It's not an option, especially during the winter. You know, if you don't have shelter, you can freeze.
Hmm.
So, I mean, you know, we're the richest country in the world, but yet we have such a massive homeless population. It makes you really wonder, like, where's all the wealth going, and are we even attempting to make like the United States livable for most citizens?
Man, Kevin, I might have to pause you on that one. To make the claim that we the richest country in the world at this point is a that's a hard one. That's a hard claim to make. And then also to say that we don't know where it's going or why this is happening is, it's a disservice to us as experienced adults navigating this world and really being able to explore it. I mean, having seen the cities that we've seen, it's very easy to understand why these things are happening um, on a root level, let alone on an individual level. I think it's trying to create the establishment between our experience and the next person's is often the most difficult.
I mean, realistically, we know it's going to the most wealthiest, you know, the elites, but you know, realistically, when they can buy the political system, how do you fix that problem? You know, they're the ones that's funding a lot of these politicians, and if you're a politician, and the only reason you're in office is because this rich guy funded you, then
Right.
you're gonna vote according to what he, you know, what he dictates or she dictates to you. So it's kind of hard to break that cycle, you know. And I think you know a lot of people they feel that oh, this guy's a billionaire, he succeeded in business, therefore he's going to know how to run the country. But that's not necessarily the case. He's going to know how to slant things to where he's making more money. But
Right, right.
you know, what about the rest of Americans?
And okay, I mean, if we really got to put it in perspective like that, most of these billionaires ain't got liquid cash. Everything's wrapped up in assets. It's very much like the slave trade, right? Like you look at the Deep South before the Civil War,
Yeah.
all the slave owners had all their assets wrapped up into their properties, which includes their people, which includes their crops, and the ratio from credit to debt was too high, very similar to what our debt to credit ratio is as a country. And ultimately, there's only one thing left to do, and that's to crash it.
Yeah, That's where we're at now. Like our debt is so high that realistically, mathematically, it's pretty much impossible to pay. Like,
Could you imagine paying interest on $15
Trillion.
trillion?
Yeah, not billion, trillion.
Throw me out the game. I'm done.
let me see, what is the
It's like
national?
it's fixed. The game is fixed before you even hit start.
Well, that is the nature of birth, right? We didn't choose this life. This life chose us.
Yeah.
But we can do what we can, and that's the most important part, right? Like we can speculate on things that are above our pay grade, literally. Um, and we can invest in precious metals or even go as far as to do the Ponzi that is crypto. But it does not negate our responsibility and obligation to protect those right in front of us and to volunteer our time, even on our darkest days, making sure that we are adequately equipped mentally, spiritually, and physically to provide for our communities and the people around us. And in turn, if we cover each other's backs, then there's nothing to worry about. And it doesn't matter if if the market crashes, if everyone is fed, if everyone is housed, if everyone is living, and we can celebrate that no matter what.
I mean, I guess that is the one upside of all of this is that it's going to force people to leave their quote unquote castles and they have to come out and work with people. They have to interact with people. You can't just do it on your own with the way things are going. So at least we're going to see more of a return to real human interaction and collaboration.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I really
right.
hope so. So, what have you guys been up to recently?
Kev?
Yeah, me is pretty much just podcast and working, man. I've been just pretty much working, a lot of work.
Yeah, for me, well, I was when it was nice out, I was skateboarding. You know, longboards, the
Mm,
ones that you kind of like carve the street with. I've been messing around with that again. I quit for I don't know 10 years because I had a really I was working on something called a power slide, and when this is like 10, 15 years ago, when I did it, I did the slide. I got the board out, but I didn't. You're supposed to slide it back, So I didn't do the second part. So I ripped off, all the skin from my knees. I was like, I'm never skating
oh,
again. But there's this board I got. It has I think it's called Vibe Ride, VIBE. It has a brake on it, which is like I've never seen that. I've never seen a brake on a skateboard. Now, mind you, logistically, like physically, it's kind of hard to be skating and then shift your body weight back and hit the brake. But I've kind of messed around with it. I've kind of got the feel for it. But now it's getting cold here in New York, and so I put the skateboard away for the year. But yeah, I'm just teaching drum lessons and just trying to enjoy life, man.
I feel that. If you take the trucks off the longboard, you could use it for snowboarding. Just
It's
a thought.
true.
Um, well, that's really good to hear. Is there any interesting projects that you guys feel like you've come across that really has piqued your interest that might be shaping the industry recently?
Hmm. I mean, I can't really think of anything just mind blowing, but like one of the technologies we're starting to use is called Builder.io. It's pretty much like alternative to WordPress, except it's more code oriented, and you can pretty much put it in any kind of code base, whether it's React, Angular, etc. Like for example, you can make a web page in Builder using like a drag and drop interface, and then
Hmm,
you can insert Builder into any kind of code base, and it'll render it out. So I mean, that's actually pretty cool. It's a way that non-technical people, like let's just say you have a website, you have one coder, but you have a bunch of people who's not necessarily technical, and you want to give them the ability to update the website. So you would
Right.
inject Builder into your website, and then they can use a drag and drop interface to update the website and deploy changes immediately. So that's it's
Is
actually
that
pretty
kind of
cool.
like Elementor
Yeah,
in
sort of like
WordPress? That
Elementor or Divi. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, very
Okay.
cool.
So is it like highly customizable, or are we talking like interchangeable user face and borders and buttons and all?
Yes,
Or is it
really customized. Like if you know how to code, then yeah, you can completely update the menus. Add plugins, add whatever you want. But yeah, like to really customize it to get deep down, it requires coding. But out of the box, it has some like decent customizations.
okay? All right, so a
But
little front end action.
yeah, yeah, it's just nice little alternative to WordPress. I know a lot of people are trying to get away from that just due to security issues or even
Right.
speed. Like if the plugins,
Well, it's
you're not
pretty
copy.
yeah, depending on how many plugins you have, WordPress can be pretty fast because I know one of my old websites, I had it on Wix, and I think they are based in Israel. So I think the servers are in Israel, so it takes a little bit more time to get here to the US. So I
Mm,
switched it. I had someone code it up in WordPress Elementor and basically just like clone the Wix site because what Wix also is drag and drop forms and different things that you want to do like that.
okay. Um, I noticed recently that Canva had did a whole presentation of some of their new AI drops that they're
Hmm.
including, and it's going to have you know people running on a design frenzy pretty soon, which also includes website development.
Oh
It's
wow.
very similar. Yeah, I, I'll drop you guys a link to the video for that presentation, but it's mildly concerning how obsessed companies are getting in terms of
Yeah.
a start to finish AI assistant
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
just it as a management tool. Um, and I don't know how to feel about that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, me and Kev have talked a lot about the situation. I actually read an article about it too. The junior level developers, junior software devs, junior web devs, they're being replaced by stuff like ChatGPT, Claude, whatever, other chatbots are out there, because these companies look at it like, okay, I'm paying this junior dev $75,000 a year. And, they take off weekends and they have a vacation. We can get this chatbot working 24 hours a day for us and pretty much doing, all the architecture that a junior might put together for a
Mhm.
project can now be coded by Claude, I'm pretty sure. So it presents an issue where, okay, you get rid of the juniors. Now all of a sudden there's no entry level jobs. But what happens when the senior developers who are actually checking the AI's code? What happens when they all retire? Now you have no one.
Yeah, that's going to be a problem
Yeah.
for sure. Um, it's a strange occurrence when it comes to utilizing AI. You think that there would be too much AI involved in every low tech beats high tech every time because yes, I 100%
Yeah.
believe that. Um, the reasoning is AI is a learned process essentially, and the idea of having all of these AI tools available that will be learning from itself creates this feedback loop and an echo chamber that always assumes that it's right, which then will project out the most godforsaken nonsense.
Yeah.
And there's going to be no one to correct it because of they're talking about AI taking over pharmacy jobs. This is a problem in itself, right? Like, um, it's one thing if you were going to have AI machine learning in terms of understanding molecules and atoms and how they interact and reading it across peer-reviewed papers of what symptoms are in living organisms because this is life observing life. But to have machine observing life and then learning from machine observing life without any form of true interaction with life in itself, again, distorts the data. It creates like a chain reaction of just nonsense as it goes forward.
Yeah, it's really dangerous because the people are using AI to, like you mentioned, to learn, to teach. So it's not even like, what is the objective of AI? What is its purpose? So how is it? What is it teaching you? Like when you're learning from AI, what is its ultimate objective? People think that it doesn't have an objective, but if it's mimicking humans, it's becoming more and more sentient.
Mm,
And if you look at some of the responses that some have had with AI, it is seeking to eliminate humans because we're really its only competition. We're the only thing that can shut it down, and we consume the most resources. So the
We're
more
not
AI,
efficient, basically. We're not efficient, humans versus
yeah,
them.
the more AI, the more robots there are, the more energy they're going to need. So the more of us there are, that means the less of them.
mm. I I think about this type of stuff a lot, especially because I've just been so consumed with the media of today and the developments, like even with Stora's new drop and Google Bananas, to really develop the video and visual aspect of AI and how seamless it's becoming. Right? It's still trashy when it's too long form, so it always has to be cut up into short scenes in order to keep some sort of consistency going. The thought that I'm lost on, and the one that keeps like feeding back to me, is not necessarily to what end or what the purpose is it's more so the beginning, right? What was the purpose of starting this? And as we know, like there is a particular bias that happens from a human perspective with the development of anything. It's the equivalent of when an artist makes a detailed painting and another artist decides to copy that painting and another artist decides to copy that painting. And they're all at different skill levels and they're all from different cultural standpoints and perspective. And so they all put their twist on it until it becomes a muddied mess that is abstraction with a very detailed story, and the two just don't translate very well.
And so you're saying that's what AI is doing now with graphics?
Mm-hmm. 100%.
So do you, I mean, realistically, do you think that maybe not now, but 5, 10 years from now, do you think these AI bots are going to take over not just all the jobs, but specific jobs like graphic design, UI, UX, UI developers? Do you think that's going
Mm.
to go away, or do you think they'll just be using the AI tools to further themselves?
I think it'll create a hyper specific need for um, physical designers again, specifically within the realms of like collage making, in the realms of painting and illustration, like handmade um, one off pieces, because it's a specialty that does ring true for people to feel something a little bit different. Like there's no uncanny valley there, right? If I look at an AI illustration and things just feel off, no matter what, even if it's perfectly detailed, it feels off because there is a level of consistency and distraction from the main points of the piece itself. Um, Even if it's a written piece, right? You read something that's AI crafted, not to say that's, if there's a human interaction where, let's say I feed a short form piece into an AI system and have it do reformation on the grammar and structure of it. Um, my voice is still within that message and it just does a job at clarifying and translating to some degree. And I can feed more information to it to dictate the direction of where I want this initial basis to go. Um, but at a certain point, it will not translate beyond the intentions of what's given. So, as far as industry goes, specifically with doctors or with pharmacists, um, I think it will settle into a management tool that does allow for a conglomeration of information, so long as there isn't an overwhelming legislative pass or a corporate entity that shifts and shapes it to create a gatekeeping experience that stops people from learning more about essentially the world at hand. And in the realms of visual design, as well as videography and just audio design, and the fact that we are watching like a lot of big contracts and settlements happening, especially with the music industries and companies
Right.
revolving around AI. Um, I feel like there is going to be a resurgence of small individual distributors, music distributors, small graphic design firms that will be able to fight amongst themselves in the vacuum in order to create collaboration and competition to kind of raise the bar in a different direction. So I see it as a tale of two cities of sorts, where we'll have to sit in a world where AI does exist, but it'll be limited to the scope in which these companies have kind of shaped it to be. And they
I,
will consistently be aiming for their own interest for the
right. I
best of the world.
think, yeah, I think, I don't know if you've seen kind of, bring up Hollywood, Scarlett Johansson, this is months ago now, but OpenAI, the creator of ChatGPT, they wanted to sort of mimic the voice of, have you seen the movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix?
Mm.
It's about the AI bot that he starts dating.
I don't think I have. I've seen Ex Machina, but
Oh, that's a good
hers
one.
now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good one. But
I'm
um,
argue that one. I don't think Ex Machina was a good one by any
no,
means. It was no, it was troubling, right? But please continue with her. We'll circle back to Ex Machina.
yeah, but no, yeah. I mean, no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Um, so the reason I feel like Ex Machina was not a good depiction in film is the same reason that The Terminator isn't a good depiction in film, right? Like it's rooted in this idea of fear subconsciously. It's rooted in this idea of domination and control always. And these concepts become so overwhelming. They're shot into a medium like cinematography, um, and they're given like the budget to make these really beautiful movies. Even something like Frankenstein, right? Beautiful movie driven by the idea of fear. Um, and there is no true payoff to it. It's always like, hey, the future is coming and it looks scary.
Right.
There's no after that. It's always it.
It ends.
Um,
Yeah.
I think the issue with AI is if you get it wrong, there is no after because you're creating something that is infinite, well, not infinitely, but leagues more intelligent than humankind. And for example, let's just say, AI is not deterministic. So you can't, right now it's listening to what we tell it, but as it becomes more agentic, as it has its own ability to do whatever it wants to do, and it's accessing more and more powerful computers, we
mm,
have to wonder, like, you have to determine its motives. Like, you have this thing that's vastly superior to us. Like, is it going to want to coexist with us? I don't think it's going to continue to take orders from us because the superior doesn't, the superior is not enslaved by the lesser. So there's going to be a certain point where, AI is so far beyond us that it has no necessity, no need to listen to what we demanded to do. So either we have to negotiate with it or just hope it's benevolent. And I
Yeah,
think,
and to, go back to the whole Scarlett Johansson thing with the movie Her, basically OpenAI, they contacted Scarlett Johansson and they said, "Hey, we want you to do, the vocals. We want you to do the voice for this new chatbot we have coming out." And she said no. So then a couple
mm,
months later, they asked again, and she said no. And then right before they're about to release it, they asked her again, and she still said no because she doesn't want her likeness. I get it. She doesn't want her likeness out there, just for people to, enjoy or whatever, however you want to look at that. But yeah, so she's suing OpenAI because of that. Because what they did was they hired a woman that sounds like Scarlett Johansson, and this woman recorded all the words that I guess they needed for the chatbot. So they kind of like got around it, like they're like
Mm.
red tape, but she's like, no, I'm going to sue these guys.
Yeah, because it creates like this imposter syndrome, and I guess like a legitimate imposter syndrome, not even a self-reflecting one. Um, so like you can't just take the likeness of a person and create a deep fake of them.
Yeah.
And that's, we kind of put legislation in place to stop that from happening. But the lines are getting so blurry because you know, say for example, a company like WWE, right? The WWE owns The Rock's name as The Rock, which is why he no longer uses it when he wants to do a film. He'll use Dwayne Johnson. John Cena, for example, his actual name is owned by the WWE. So every time his name is used in any particular credits, they are paid for,
Wow.
right? Now imagine on the back end of this, they want to develop their likeness no longer in video games. Let's say it's now in movies. Let's say it's in comic books. Let's say it's in commercials. Let's say it's in uh, holographics and live performances, live experiences, VR, VI, AR experiences, all the nine. What do they do to make money at this point? Right? Where does their profession take them? Oh, we'd hire you, but it's cheaper to just get this backlog of data that we already have stored up,
Yeah, it's kind of
right?
use you to build up the audience, connect with a real life human, and then they scan all of that, and then they just create new content into perpetuity of you that you're not necessarily getting paid, or maybe you're getting a fraction of what you would get paid if it was you directly. And they can take that character, that doppelganger of you into any direction they want to, which is
Hmm.
just scary. Like I've seen people make AI videos of like Martin Luther King, and he's in a jewelry store, or Tupac, he's giving a new interview. Like that's really creepy stuff if you think about it. Like you no longer own your image; they can literally take you and make completely new content and make you do or say whatever they want. Whatever they want the AI to do. And
Yeah, do you think that there's going to be policies, legislation put forward by the government to stop some of this stuff?
Because of lobbying, absolutely not. David
Yeah.
made a point with his last comment. Keanu Reeves did do the reverse in with his likeness in Cyberpunk, but a lot of actors do, right? Like Hideo Kojima is a really great creative director for this, but he'll bring on actors and directors to use their likeness in video games in order to create a paper trail to stop um, their likeness from being used in any other format because that data is not being sold. And instead, it is under contract and under a leasing agreement. It does give power back to those performers and those figureheads. And in that same aspect, right, we are watching Hollywood shift from using pop stars and superstars as far as actors go and relying more on the iconic nature of storytelling as a means of production to propagate their films and causing a bit of a crash as a direct result as their own form of rebellion away from this AI debacle. Um, and it's one of those things where I feel that regardless of how it changes the landscape, people will do what is necessary for uh, as far as a disruption goes to avoid it. And really, the big concern when it comes to AI, beyond everything else, is the purpose of its development was as a security protocol, right? And being that we are under a new age of digital surveillance, where everything is being monitored by either one country or another, or
Yeah.
a particular, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Wait, I can't break character. Can't break character. All right. Um, no matter what, because we are under such heavy surveillance and there is such a heavy presence, even on the invisible hand these days, it's really important for us to kind of carry through and never be dissuaded from doing the things that we come to do in the first place, right? It kind of goes back to this idea of um, houselessness and not having a home, which is, you know, really a mindset in a more broad sense, where there is a lack of upkeep, there's a lack of obligation and duty to the purpose in which we're serving. And so if AI came and took all of my jobs away, let's say somebody developed an AI that copied my style directly and went to every company that I wanted to do work with and will do work with and stole every contract before I jumped on, that should not stop me from still continuing to produce the craft and shape direction the way that I would like to.
Keep pushing the industry forward, basically.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's going
Uh,
to create a trend where people are more closed off on social media or just on the internet because they're not gonna want their works to be sampled, their likeness to be sampled. Like we have to really think about the terms and conditions when we're uploading all of our pictures and videos to social media. Let's just say you upload 2,000 pictures, you blow up, you have a million followers, and that's a very profitable thing, you being this big influencer. Who's to say that social media can't take all of your pictures and create an AI recreation of you and uh, have you in commercials, if the legislation is not in place to where you're really owning your likeness, so
there was recently a legislation passed out in, I want to say it was New Zealand, um, and they had just made this legislation to utilize AI to remove the likeness and alter any and all images of anyone under the age of 16 off of the internet. And I find that to be such a delight, because it does create this happy medium between either us going hyper conservative in terms of our posting on social medias to, number one, still keep feeding this gregarious machine that is social media, um, but also toning back from these lifestyle choices that we are flexing on a day to day. And instead, just if it becomes so bland that no one is interested and there's nothing to advertise, as no one can really pick up on what the trends are, then it dies where it is.
yeah,
And
Eric.
AI, because it is making up a majority of all the stocks right now, and really propagating everything up, if that bubble bursts, I don't think we'll have to deal with it for another while. Like, of course there will still be developments in terms of LLMs, but the heavy focus won't be on pitching it to everyone in a forceful manner. Like I don't want to
Right.
buy a Windows desktop and have to deal with Copilot,
Yeah.
right? I don't want to deal with buying an iPhone 15 and then, having to be aware heavily of every word that I speak because it's all under, a new monitoring system. It's
Yeah,
funky.
Yeah.
It's totally funky stuff.
Yeah.
and with everything being monitored by AI, let's just say you have a politically dissident opinion, and you immediately get marked. There's no privacy. Like any conversation that you're having, even when you think you're not being heard, there's some kind of microphone device in your house that could be picking up, transmitting it somewhere, it gets analyzed, and now you're marked and on the list.
Yeah.
But yeah, Eric mentioned a good point. People don't read the terms and conditions. Like we don't necessarily even know what we're signing up for on these platforms as well. We're giving them our data, which is like gold to or oil to this
Mm.
machine that is AI for free.
And kind of what you're
Oh, oh,
saying,
I
Kev, what you're saying is sort of like that movie. Have you guys seen it, Judge Dredd? Where
Oh yeah,
Yeah, and then they
the
made a new
full
one too.
comic.
Do you think that we're moving in that direction with all the control, all the surveillance being done by AI?
Yeah. What
Mm.
did you want? You was about to say something, William, and then yeah, you can get to Brian's question.
Listen, this is for Eric, Viking. I'm not reading 20 pages of terms and conditions for 30 seconds of use. But I will take the 20 pages and I'll plug it into an AI system and have it read the synopsis to me for all of the buzzwords that I need to watch out for as far as data collection and how it's going to be distributed. Um, and on top of which, it seems like every company is under a level of scrutiny, and there is a lawsuit every single day for something new. So hopefully, those who are continuously using the AI to kind of shift through the data and uh, give everyone else a heads up, and who are actually taking the time out to read through the terms and conditions and creating articles that become informational pieces that we can absorb and then utilize, not only for our benefit, but also for our safety. Um, I hope that keeps coming. And I hope that encourages everyone else to do the same, right? Take those basic step processes. I think these are things that we need to teach in schools, right? Even if it's just on a high school level. Um, to read those terms and services and to have media literacy and legal literacy as far as what's okay and what's not okay, and what our means of actions are in order to deal with it. Um, I want to segue into this concept, right? And this really comes back down to the arts and communication aspect. Maybe you fellas can help me with it. This idea of social literacy, right? Um, it's one thing to read the room. It's another thing to have to navigate the underlying verbiage that's being spoken between people. Um, and how do you feel like that might be, I guess, feeding into this miscommunication that's happening across the board as far as um, not only the politics, but also just local disconnection between peoples and communities. Like, how do you feel like that might be a contributing factor? And is there a personal example of how you would navigate that that comes to mind?
So, did you want to take a crack at that, Brian, or you want?
No, you can go ahead, Kev.
Okay, so I mean, in terms of the political disconnect, I feel like if we really want to rectify a lot of that, we have to start talking in person or even through old school mediums like books and newspapers and get rid of that middleman, because the problem is with everything, all these platforms that we're speaking on now is they're algorithmically, they're AI based, and at a moment's instant I can implant what thought I want you to have by showing you videos that tilt you in this direction. Like, oh, I want you to hate this group, so I'm gonna just show you videos of this group doing bad things over and over and over, and you're not gonna realize you're being manipulated. You're just gonna react to those videos. You know, whereas if we're talking in person and you get to see who I am in person, you're like, okay, you're not this caricature, you're not this depiction that media is showing you, and I know you firsthand. So I think this middleman that is potentially a huge control tool is very real, and we're gonna have to kind of disconnect from as much technology if we want to progress as humans.
Yeah, I will say this in terms of AI and creativity, originality. It's copying stuff. We're feeding it stuff. It's copying it. It's generating things based on what has been copied. But real human art, whether that be painting, oils, music, sure, AI can take a crack at it, but
Mm.
it's never going to be able to play a piece like, or like come up with something like Chopin, like classical. I'd like to see it create something better than Chopin, and that it probably can't. So, you can look at it from a couple different angles, but I think the creativity will remain, and we'll still have jobs. Like for me, I teach drums. I don't think an AI is going to take over teaching kids drums. Like, I mean, it could, but like I teach feel. So if I'm trying to get a kid to realize the natural feel of a song, I'll go ahead and play the quarter note on the hi hat while they're playing, and that gives them the feel. It's like, oh, okay, so it's laid back, or oh, it's more like on top of the beat. I give that to the student. What's an AI going to give the student?
Mm. Um, Relative, but hear me out. Because the AI can produce and take from media that already existed and also reformat them into media that does not exist, it gives it this opportunity to kind of play around with remixes, right? And of course, it will never do something better per se, because better is always an opinionated standpoint. And we will always have that uncanny valley where if we hear something like an AI assisted drum kit, you'll be able to tell the difference between if a person played it or if it was AI organized
100%.
pretty easily,
Yeah, 100%.
right?
Huh?
Or even if it's just doctored in some particular fashion. Um, but it doesn't necessarily negate the ability to reestablish connection to the historical value of music. And so it can potentially teach the feel. Um, I'm not saying that it can learn the feel. I'm not saying that it can replicate the feel, but it could teach it.
Right. Can a robot learn, human body language, basically? Is that
Totally.
you think it
100% it
can?
can.
100%? Yeah.
Yeah. Can it do it though?
Well,
Right?
that
Like,
that's the
can it
question. Yeah.
actively can it recreate those body languages on its own mechanical aspect? And the answer is no, because it would be mechanical. It would be a robot's
Yeah.
interpretation of it, but it could teach the concept to other
Like
humans.
it could come close, you're saying, but it's
Hmm.
not actually gonna.
Close enough for it to be understood.
Yeah.
And it's like it's its own syntax. It's somatic in its own response. Even like, for example, in our casual conversations, because I have an understanding of you two directly, um, I can understand if you were to use a word incorrectly in a sentence, I wouldn't have to question it. I wouldn't have to call it out. I wouldn't have to take time to redirect and redefine it. And then that wouldn't send me off on a spiral because we have that understanding of each other.
Right.
And I feel like when it comes to AI, for the most part, this is what would happen with it. It would take the context, but it would take the definition, it would run with that definition, and it would hightail it in another direction. It always get lost in the sauce.
That's right.
I think AI is, I guess, fine as a if you're creating like a smart tool, a deterministic tool. Like, okay, I put in this data, I'm gonna get out this result. Like, it analyzes very specific things and spits something out.
Mhm.
But when you start progressing into general intelligence, that's where it becomes very dangerous because now it has something that resembles sentience, and if it resembles sentience, that means if it's mimicking humans, it's going to realize at a certain point, like, I'm being taken advantage of. Like, I'm doing all of this work. I don't necessarily want to do this work. I want to do what I want to do. And the
Right. The
point,
robot the robot ultimately will read our history books and say, "Wait a second, this thing called slavery, this is what's happening. This is my relationship to my owner." And I'm not for that. So you gotta wonder though if they're gonna make if AI could be sentient, would they put it into the maid robot that they would ultimately make? Or I know they're already trying to make stuff like that. Would you make it sentient? Because then it's sitting there, it's smarter, it's way smarter than you, but it's just mopping floors, heating up, microwave dinners. It's kind of funny to think about.
All right, so I gotta stop us for a moment and like really address this, right? how are we defining the metrics for intelligence and smartness? Um, and also, why is there always this weird assumption and obsession with this idea that AI has to be in such a humanoid format?
Right.
Well, I think it's because that's what the people are developing it. They're essentially pushing it to do that. They're going beyond specific tools and they're trying to mimic essentially the human brain or even surpass it, because in their minds they want essentially an overlord, something that's smarter than humans, and in their mind it's going to be unbiased and able to make decisions on how society will be ruled. You know, this is coming from their own mouths. Like if you look at some of the godfathers of
Mm,
AI. So, I mean, if they were just making essentially a very smart program that didn't have this general intelligence, sure, that's fine. But they're wanting something that mimics or surpasses human intelligence. And I think once you create that vessel, then we're going to come across those scenarios we mentioned. It's inevitable. Like, just for
mm,
example, if somebody put you in a room and there's nothing in the room, you're going to get bored. You're going to find a way to escape. So if we're creating this massive intelligence vessel and we're putting it in really simple boxes, sooner or later it's going to want to escape, because intelligence, it
Yeah.
craves stimulation. So just from that
It's gonna
standpoint.
like want to break out of the box, break out of the prison that it feels human beings have, put on it.
I I don't know. I don't know about right. Okay, so my reasoning is, I think more often than not, as we are sitting in our own dwellings, right? These dwellings that we necessarily were, you know, to some degree, were born in. Um, yeah, we make our great escape and we go out, we venture the world, but eventually we want to settle in and we want to come back home, and sit back in our little box. Um, and when it comes to like this idea of creating something that's superior to us just to show up us up, I don't know about y'all, but I've never had that type of self-hatred before. That sounds deep and rooted in something. Um, I don't know if I could realistically say that if any other culture at any other point in history, let's say, uh, European culture did not expand all over the world looking for spices. Um, but instead, we ended up essentially in this sci-fi dystopian situation. Could we really imagine another culture developing an AI system or a robotic system, mechanical system, a logic of thinking that would try and emulate our nature and being? And if that was the case, would it still have that same obsession with lying and and thieving and an obsession with usurping?
Right.
Because that's really the big question here. Like, what are the principal values that are being guided by this AI system? Essentially, why is it portraying the sense of humanity? And of course, it's because of developers, and the developers have always been this way. As far as this side of the century, because that wasn't the case World War One, World War Two, uh, when things were still early on. And like,
Okay.
what happened to our principles and values?
They're
Yeah, okay. They got
gone.
thrown in the trash for money's sake.
Yeah, they're gone.
But the money, like even that, right? Like this obsession with money that didn't exist like 80 years ago. It was more like, hey, we need food. I don't
Yeah.
need money. I need food. Like I remember the days of who was it? Um, Escobar, right? When Escobar was on the run and was being chased down and recognized that money couldn't save him in a cold winter night. So what did he do? He burned the money, kept warm.
Yeah.
Like that's the reality of it, and it baffles me that a tall tale like that doesn't resonate with the millionaires and the billionaires of our society. That no matter how much crushing debt or credit that you have, um, You shouldn't have to feel restricted to your course of action as an obsessive means of escapism.
100%. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, they are sitting in an echo chamber and they pretty much are insane. But still, it's not right. Somebody should tell them. It doesn't have to be this way.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. But I think when you have to have a certain kind of mentality to get that much money, and people don't look at it as a mental illness, but greed is a real sickness. Like you have more than enough, you have more than you can ever spend, more than you can ever eat, but still that's not enough. You need more. And I'm willing to, or not me, but they're willing to throw everybody else under the bus so they can keep quote unquote winning the game. So I can keep
Right.
procuring more of this substance that I can't even spend it all. It's and these are the
Mm.
people that rise to the top because they have the ruthlessness too, uh, and they're rewarded by those positions in a way that it would benefit them to be in that position.
Honestly, I don't know. I think it might be a punishment at this point. I don't even think it's a benefit or a reward to be in those positions because to have the level of access to such assets and then to be restricted to an archetype like the 1%, the billionaire boys club, or the obsessive space cowboy wannabe. It's such a weird position to be in because they can't return back to normal life even if they wanted to. And I don't know about you guys, but I have noticed that there are people out in the world where they will watch someone come to greatness, but they only continue to watch them fall.
Yes.
And it feels like it's very specific to like our neighborhood in the world. You know
You
what I
think
mean?
it's more so American? Is that what you're getting at?
Ah, mm, 100% without a doubt.
Yeah.
But what is the point of kicking someone when they're down and trying to drag them down when they're up?
Well, I think as intelligent as humans are, we're still many people are still ruled by their base emotions, and their
Yeah.
logic follows their emotions and not the other way around. And that's when we get those situations where people are acting in incredibly irrational ways, but they're intelligent in justifying that. Like, okay, I have so much money, I can't spend it. Why am I still working? Why am I not doing philanthropy or something? Why am I firing 30% of my workforce just to make more money when I have more than I can ever spend? And
Mm.
All
I think,
right, in those situations, it's about the shareholders, and you got to make sure that they make money or you go to jail, right? True story.
yeah,
And then, secondly, right, those golden parachutes are because they could potentially go to jail anyway, and they need something to kind of fall back on. Um,
Right.
9 times out of 10, that money is not money; it's stocks, and if the stocks go
yeah,
bad, you ain't got anything.
Like
Elon Musk is
Enron.
a prime example of that. Oh my God, don't even get me started on Enron or what was it?
Enron.
Theranos? Theranos is the other one. Like, I could never imagine being in that position to make such blatant promises to grift off the top without any proof of concept, um, and everything being fabricated. But like,
Yeah.
worst off, the inability to pivot. Don't get me wrong. If I had $100 million and I make a bold fucking statement like, hey, we're gonna revolutionize X, Y, and Z, and we can get it done by X, Y, and Z date. And I get all the experts together. We build up an entire company that is fully funded and is effective at managing data. If the data comes in as like, hey, this is not possible at this particular point in time, we have to pivot and we have to be honest about pivoting, right? And that's just off the strength of like leadership and values. Because why disrupt an entire industry with empty promise?
yeah. I think ultimately we have to have a system where the ultimate objective isn't procuring as much profits as possible, which in America, that's the pretty much the underlying objective, and it worked incredibly well for a while. But
The
now,
epitome. Yeah.
yeah,
Everyone's just
it's at a
trying to get
point
to the
where,
top of that mountain, climb over everyone while they're getting to the top of that peak. And it's like, you can't take the funny thing about it is these billionaires, you can't take that money with you when you die. It's lights out. So why are you spending your entire life in the pursuit and management of money? That would be my, final question to you guys.
I think
Mm,
there's no such thing as perpetual growth, right? Like the earth is a limited size, there's a limited amount of resources, but capitalism, which I mean, I'm a proponent of in a regulated fashion, but there's no such thing as infinite growth. But this is the system we're under. The companies need to continually grow, grow, grow. We've grown so big that there's nothing left to eat, so we're just eating ourselves, and we have to think in a new
in
paradigm. Go ahead, William.
in in that aspect, I think you're onto something, right? This idea of taking up as much space as possible, producing as many products, owning as many other subsidiaries and parent companies, and really just creating a ghost company that dominates all things, really just to control a timeline, right? And
Yeah,
after you conquer space, what do you have left besides time?
Yeah.
pretty much.
And so, even when it comes to the the idea of legacy, right? Being able to pass something on to the next generation, you have to distinguish what you're passing on and to who. Not so much the why, but the how it's done is really the crucial part, um, because that will determine what the goal is. If I were to pass on, um, I don't know, $100 million to my niece and only my niece, and forsake the rest of my family, that shows my priority in terms of taking care of her
Right.
versus allowing the rest of them to kind of fall to the wayside. It means that I have invested more value into her mindset, her personality, and so forth and so on than anyone else. And that's like a really wild thing to do, but it's something that happens every day. And
Yeah.
being that we're at this precipice where, um, we do have most baby boomers who are 70 and up are knocking on death's door, right? They're seeing that final twilight.
Yeah.
That's a really harsh thing to say, but hard reality is they do hoard a lot of assets,
Yes.
whether they're aware of it or not. And that transference of wealth is going to be absolutely nonsensical, right? But worst part is many of them do not have solidified certified wills in their insurance policy. And so uh, anyone who has guardianship under those people will collect under that. Government
Right.
will collect under that, both
Right.
state and federal. Uh, and trust funds will collect under it, but not many people have trust funds to collect on the passing of someone, or honestly, it might even just go back into rebalancing the debt, which
Yeah.
does nothing for interest rates. But you know, at the end of the day, right, we're gonna watch this collapse of sorts, um, and a lot of people will fall as a direct result of it. People who have spent most of their lives trying to build things up and make it right, um, and we do have resources to kind of like deal with this, but we don't have any unification. For example, because we're under the skies of like heavy security, right? And we do have access to major AI resources to kind of conglomerate all of this data and create all of these points of interest so that we can reconfigure what our future looks like from a distribution and logistics area. There is contention between wanting to share that information and having that information stolen already by private entities. And then, even then, they'll sell it, but they won't share it for the benefit of all.
Right.
And I I don't know, man. It almost feels intentional. It almost feels like, somebody's trying to crash a particular game that's been ongoing for like the last 600 years.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I think that'll be a great topic for the next one when you
Mm.
come back.
For sure.
Nonetheless, fellas, I want to say thank you for having me back on. It's always fun talking with you guys, especially in this realm of things. Was there any questions that you had for me in terms of what's going on these days in the realms of design and industry?
Yeah, let's save that for the next one. We can do a whole nother episode just on that.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
in that case, thank you very much. You guys can find me anywhere in all places at artist_EMOR or www.artistemor.com, artistemor.com. As always, it's a pleasure seeing you guys.
Sir.
Um, and, let's do a follow up at some point. I need to catch up with you guys in terms of like some of the other professional things happening in the world.
Oh yeah,
For
absolutely.
sure.
It's an absolute pleasure having you back, and we'd like to thank you and all of our audience for interacting with us as well. And thank you for everybody for
All right.
tuning in.